My mother was the Queen for a very long time. And although you kind of know that this might happen, you don't really think about it very much.
Princess Anne just revealed the shocking truth about the Queen's final moments. Long regarded as the monarchy's most hardworking and dependable member, she earned the Queen's deep trust. Unlike her siblings, she avoided controversy, proving herself time and again. Perhaps that's why, in the Queen's final moments, she entrusted Anne with a wish that could change everything. What was the late monarch's final wish? And how does it affect the royal family's dynamics? Join us as we uncover how Princess Anne revealed Queen Elizabeth's final wish and shocked Camilla. A dying revelation. The late Queen Elizabeth II, who passed away on September 8, 2022, at Balmoral Castle, was thinking of her people over her own pain in the days before her death. This revelation was made by her only daughter, Anne, Princess Royal, who shared details of Britain's longest-reigning monarch's selfless qualities that shaped how uniquely she approached her own passing at the age of 96. The monarch, who had become something of a permanent fixture in the imagination of multiple generations, spent her final hours at Balmoral Castle on September 8th, which were both peaceful and surprisingly busy, as the workaholic monarch read and signed state papers. Even on her deathbed, she was still working. According to Anne, a footman had appeared with a red box, the last of which had gone up to the Queen before her passing. Even on her deathbed, there had been work to do. And she had done it. Elizabeth II had been staying at Balmoral in northern Scotland for weeks before she passed away, which was an annual late summer tradition. Princess Anne later disclosed that her mother, the late Queen, was worried that passing away at her beloved home would complicate matters, although there are speculations that the Queen knew she would likely pass away at the Highlands estate. The Queen met Prime Minister Liz Truss on September 6, 2022, just 2 days before she breathed her last. But according to Anne, she kept working on her literal deathbed. The following morning, September 7th, the Queen's health deteriorated. Fortunately, the Princess Royal, with a series of engagements in Scotland, was in residence, and according to her, it was purely fate that she was there. Princess Anne recalled that she had spent 2 days up on the West Coast and she was coming back. She stayed the night and then planned on going south. But either fate or luck played a big part, ensuring that she spent her mother's final hours with her. Both Anne and the then Prince Charles would visit the ailing monarch throughout that day, as the sovereign remained in bed, which nearly everyone thought was not a good sign. As the morning of September 8th dawned, Queen Elizabeth II remained bedridden and had started to slip in and out of consciousness, which had the entire castle on high alert. And after separate bedside visits from Charles and Anne, the beloved sovereign peacefully slipped away in her sleep in mid-afternoon. Princess Anne's revelation has given new insights into the kind of monarch that Queen Elizabeth II was. A monarch that cared for her people, that worked for her people, and a monarch that believed in meticulous planning, up to the point of making arrangements for her own funeral. However, Anne and King Charles believed that no one should ever be made to do that, and so they put a stop to it. How did they convince the late monarch to step away from planning her own funeral? A family intervention. Princess Anne revealed that the late Queen Elizabeth II was worried that her funeral would be too difficult to organize if she passed away at Balmoral. However, in the days leading up to her passing on, Her late Majesty had several conversations with her family about her place of rest and needed to be persuaded to do what felt right. The Princess Royal revealed in the documentary Charles III: The Coronation Year that the late monarch thought that her funeral would be more difficult if she passed away at Balmoral, but that she and her siblings tried to persuade her that she should not be part of the decision-making process. The Princess Royal also made a rare statement about the Queen Consort Camilla, which many claim came as a shock to her. Speaking about her sister-in-law Camilla, Anne said that she had known her a long time. She also praised her understanding of her role and how her support to the king was absolutely outstanding. Despite Camilla not being a natural fit, Anne pointed out that she was doing a wonderful job. Princess Anne also talked about seeing the imperial state crown taken off the Queen's coffin for the last time at St. George's Chapel at Windsor during the funeral. She shared that she weirdly felt a sense of relief. Relief that it was finished, that it was over. Relief of that responsibility being passed on. For Anne, this must have been particularly difficult, as she enjoyed a close relationship with her mother. What are the things that made her enjoy such a close relationship with the late monarch as opposed to her siblings? A mother-daughter bond. Princess Anne made history when she took part in the Vigil of Princes following the passing away of her mother, Queen Elizabeth II. The Princess Royal participated in a second 15-minute vigil at Westminster Hall as Elizabeth's children, led by King Charles III, stood solemnly around the coffin of Britain's longest-reigning monarch. The only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II accompanied the hearse from Scotland to Buckingham Palace, calling the journey an honor and a privilege. Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's second child and only daughter, Princess Anne Elizabeth Alice, was born at Clarence House on August 15, 1950. Both she and her brother, King Charles, were young children when Elizabeth ascended to the throne on February 6, 1952. Queen Elizabeth II was often away on royal duties during their early years, and so she did not see much of her mother as a young girl. In 1953, when she was just 3, the Queen undertook an extensive tour of the Commonwealth, visiting 13 nations, including Australia, Jamaica, and Uganda, over 6 months. However, Anne shared a striking physical resemblance to her mother, and this was widely noted during a state visit to Austria when Queen Elizabeth and Anne were photographed standing side by side at the Hotel Imperial in Vienna on May 7, 1969. Princess Anne also shared the Queen's love of dogs. As a young child, she was often photographed alongside the monarch's beloved corgis in the 1950s and 1960s, but as she grew older, Princess Anne began accompanying the Queen on her royal tours. In 1970, she traveled to New Zealand and Australia with Elizabeth for a 2-month visit. But aside from sharing a striking resemblance and her mother's love of dogs, Princess Anne and the late Queen Elizabeth II shared common leisure interests, including a passion for horses and the outdoors. After Anne won the 3-day horse trials in Burghley on the 5th of September 1971, Queen Elizabeth proudly presented its trophy to her daughter. It is no wonder that Princess Anne, known for her love of the outdoors, became the first member of Britain's royal family to compete in the Olympics. At the 1976 Montreal Olympic Games, she rode the Queen's horse Goodwill in the equestrian 3-day event. And when she married her first husband, who was also a fellow Olympic horse rider, Mark Phillips, in 1973, her beaming mother was photographed alongside the couple in the official royal portrait. She was also the first of the Queen's children to start her own family, and this made the Queen a very happy grandmother. At the coronation of Anne and Mark's son Peter, Elizabeth was photographed smiling at her grandson while he lay in Anne's lap. In 1987, shortly before the princess celebrated her 37th birthday, she was granted the title of Princess Royal by Elizabeth. The title of Princess Royal is usually reserved for the monarch's eldest daughter and is the highest honorary title for a female member of the royal family, so it was only right that the Queen bestow this honor on her daughter. The bond shared between mother and daughter was such a strong one, and the princess always fiercely defended her mother in public. The Princess Royal came out in strong support of the Queen over the public perception that Elizabeth was an uncaring mother. In an interview with the BBC over 2 decades ago, the outspoken princess affirmed that Her Majesty loved her children and cared for them as any other mother would. According to her, she simply did not believe that there was any evidence whatsoever to suggest that the late monarch was not caring. She described the rumors flying around as just beggar's belief. She also noted that they, as the Queen's children, were probably not too demanding in the sense that they understood the limitations and the responsibilities placed on their mother as monarch in the things she had to do and the travels she had to make. But still, she did not believe any of the Queen's children for a second thought that she did not care for them in exactly the same way as any other mother cared for their children. The Princess Royal was once dubbed the most hardworking royal. What did she do to earn the moniker? The most hardworking royal. Princess Anne, now 74, still remains extremely committed to her royal duties while rejecting the notion of retirement in spite of all the challenges in the British royal family. According to Fox News, as the hardest working royal, the Princess Royal completed a mind-blowing 457 engagements in the year 2024, a number that is significantly superior to other senior royals like King Charles and Prince William. In spite of suffering a dangerous concussion in the month of June of the year 2024 that temporarily sidelined her, Princess Anne pretty quickly recovered and resumed her responsibilities. Adding to that, she believes that retirement is not an option, and still now continues to embody the work ethic of her late parents, the late Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. Her dedication has earned praise from several renowned royal experts, whilst also noting her crucial role in supporting the monarchy during severely challenging times. With King Charles and Kate Middleton recovering from cancer treatments, Princess Anne has been extremely instrumental in maintaining her royal public appearances. She is also reportedly mentoring her niece, Princess Charlotte, preparing her for her future royal responsibilities, which would be immensely important. And who better to prepare her than the most hard-working member of the royal family? The approach of Princess Anne actually differs from the younger royals, who focus on long-term impact and fewer projects. Her no-nonsense attitude and commitment to service have earned her respect all over across the British royal family and public, while making her an indispensable member of the British royal family. Even during the coronavirus pandemic, the princess kept working through it. She became the unsung heroine of the royal family thanks to her continued work throughout the coronavirus pandemic. During the pandemic, the government advised people over the age of 70 to limit their social interactions, but Princess Anne, who was just 69 at the time, showed no signs of slowing down, which, surprisingly, was not surprising. But whilst other royals adopted precautionary measures to prevent members from contracting the disease, with the Queen, who resided at Windsor Castle for the Easter break alongside her husband, Prince Philip, cancelling public visits to Cheshire and Camden, and the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall postponing their tour to the Republic of Cyprus and Jordan, Anne was reportedly ready to continue with her duty. The then 69-year-old had a number of engagements scheduled, according to the royal diary. She paid a visit to the Addington Equestrian Centre near Buckingham in her role as Vice Patron of the British Horse Society, BHS. Anne also met the BHS education team and equine coaches and watched a demonstration during her visit. Anne has devoted herself to a life of public service, just like her parents did. And just like her parents enjoyed a long and fulfilling life as a happy married couple, Anne looked to enjoy the same. She hoped to toe the same line her mother and father toed. How well did that work out for her? The beginning of the end. The royal family is known for a number of different aspects: the jewels, the castles, and the outlandish weddings. But as much as they try to avoid it, they are also known for drama. The royal family has endured some heavy emotional upheaval, from controversial abdications to rumored affairs to 3 divorces in 1 year. Members of the royal family have tested the stability of the institution for decades. One of the aforementioned divorces was Princess Anne's split from her first husband, Captain Mark Phillips. In a year that was dubbed by Queen Elizabeth herself as Annus Horribilis, a Latin phrase for horrible year, 1992 saw the demise of not 1, not 2, but 3 of her children's romantic partnerships, and Anne was among them. While Anne's divorce wasn't nearly as high profile as King Charles's separation from Diana Spencer, her marriage was overflowing with drama, infidelity, and conflict. The royal family has a sordid history of impacting romantic relationships, like the case of King Charles and Diana Spencer, who met just a dozen times before getting married because, at the end of the day, marital unions should benefit the monarchy. Princess Anne was subject to such scrutiny, and her family members had a very heavy hand in her romantic life even before her first husband even came onto the scene. As it turned out, Anne already had a crush on Olympic, equestrian Richard Meade, whom she met at age 20. Meade was a whole 12 years older than the princess, but the two were reportedly smitten. However, Anne's father, Prince Philip, did not approve of the match nor the age gap and made his feelings known about the situation. And due to familial pressures, the couple called it quits less than 2 years later. Princess Anne had a number of suitors, and while her romantic life had been altered by familial expectations, she was ready to meet her match. And so, along came Captain Mark Phillips, a military man with a background in horse riding, a passion of Anne's. As reported, Anne and Mark met while attending a horse riding event in Mexico City. It was 1968, and it's clear that their common interest had quite a heavy hand in their meet-cute. Mark was born in Gloucestershire in 1948 and, following in the footsteps of his family members, joined the military. He went to school at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst and followed his education with a stint serving in the armed forces as a second lieutenant. By the time he and Anne were an item, he had been promoted in rank to captain, hence the full formal title. In addition to his military service, Mark was an avid horse rider and even won an Olympic gold medal in the British equestrian team event at the 1972 Games. Mark at that time ticked a lot of boxes for the young princess. While Princess Anne and Mark Phillips met in 1968, their love affair was not instantaneous. In fact, Anne sparked a relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles, and the two were quite close. Princess Anne and Captain Mark Phillips announced their engagement in May 1973. Despite their romantic relationship being briefly disrupted, the two got engaged about 5 years after they met. On November 14, 1973, Princess Anne and Captain Mark Phillips tied the knot in a ceremony that was watched by spectators across the world. Anne was the first of her siblings to get married, and, as such, there was a lot of excitement in the air. When she emerged on the big day, Anne looked beautiful in a high-collared gown that featured bell-shaped sleeves and a 7-foot-long train. In a touching nod to her mother, Anne wore the Queen Mary fringe tiara, the exact same tiara Queen Elizabeth wore on her wedding day to Prince Philip. Many had hoped that the wedding would be a sign of things to come, that the couple would go on to enjoy success in their marriage. But it wasn't. When and how did their marriage begin to crumble? The end of 15 years of commitment. In the 15 years that Anne and Mark had been married, it was reported that neither was happy. At the time that the union failed at overcoming its final hurdle, the distance in the marriage was obvious. Anne and Mark's relationship, by the time it truly crumbled, was a loveless union just drifting along. The couple were said to have a mutual indifference for one another to top it all off. In a shocking turn, Mark had a child with another woman while still married to Anne. He had an affair with Heather Tonkin, an art teacher from New Zealand, and she gave birth to their daughter, Felicity, in 1985. This was confirmed in 1991 from a DNA test that Mark was the father, but he had already been providing for the mother and child. Mark had been playing the role of a father to the girl before the DNA test revealed anything, giving Tonkin about $8,300 a year. He hid the payment in a sneaky way, as he hired her as a consultant relating to equestrian matters. The marriage, already rocked by scandals, gave the couple no choice but to announce their intent to separate in 1989. The couple announced that they did not have any plans to actually get divorced. Rather, they were taking some time to live apart. But it came as no shock when Anne and Mark became another one of the fatal pairings within the royal family that called it quits for good in 1992. And what do you make of Anne's relationship with her late mother? Do you think she is deserving of the moniker most hardworking royal? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.